I'm going to start by telling you a story. On the one hand, it's kind of a boring story about a pilot program being launched by my organization to empower communities and microlending within communities. But on the other hand, it's the most human thing in the world. It's a story about how humans are compelled to trust other humans. And in doing so, they spread a network of trust that goes viral. And it starts with a few things that in our work we've observed. For one, there are multitudes of entrepreneurs or would-be aspiring entrepreneurs out there around us, many of whom stuck in day jobs, biding their time, trying to get the support they need to make their entrepreneurial dreams come true. We secondly know these people could be the foundation of a brand new economy, one that starts from the bottoms up. And just to put a little bit of scale behind that, just some math. If 1/3 of US small businesses just hired one more employee, we would wipe out unemployment. Everyone would have a job who wanted one. Secondly, there is a population of entrepreneurs, particularly within the immigrant community, that are extremely entrepreneurial. First-generation entrepreneurs start businesses 27% more times than non-immigrants. And to hone in even further on a community that we have right in our very backyard, more businesses are started by Latino immigrants than any in the US. And we have seen historically the change that these Latino immigrants can make. They are usually the first to revitalize our inner cities. So there's so much opportunity. One problem, though, is that they're hard to find and they're hard to support. So in what sense are they invisible? We know that one of the top 3 reasons why people cannot start businesses is a lack of access to startup capital. Yet when you look at one of the traditional sources, which is banks, banks regularly reject more than 70% of immigrant entrepreneurs because it's hard for them to have access to traditional forms of data that the algorithms that the banks use need to have, such as a credit history or collateral. To make things worse, for language reasons, cultural reasons, many other reasons, immigrant entrepreneurs often avoid banks as well. It doesn't occur to them, or they don't feel like the banks are going to be supportive of them. So this mutual distrust basically collide and make it impossible to find and support these entrepreneurs that could be such a huge growth engine for many of our cities. So what do we do? I work for an organization that our whole sole purpose is to find socially driven lenders who don't need a financial return. And we've amassed loan capital from such lenders who want to be providing it to the right entrepreneurs, the ones that are going to do well for their community. But how do you find them? They are invisible. There are no easy traditional means to find them, particularly the recent immigrants. So this is our problem. This is the problem that my organization faces. And let me just tell you one story of how we've made it work. It all started with an organization that we reached out to called META, the Mission Economic Development Association. And their purpose is to support recent Latino immigrants. One of the ways in which they do so is to have an entrepreneurship training program. So they regularly work very closely with people who have dreams of starting their own businesses. So this was our entry point. We partnered with them and we said, hey, you guys know the community well. We don't. Why don't you recommend your best students in this entrepreneurship program? And we will get their loans funded. So they did that. They recommended 10 of their entrepreneurs that they had gotten to know. They'd gotten to know their work ethic, their character, and the degree to which these people were ready to start a business. One of which was a man by the name of Victor. Victor owns a cafe in the Mission called Cafeto. He is a Mexican immigrant who came from a large family, had to drop out of school at age 9 to start working various odd jobs, was immigrated to the United States where he started to pick up a lot of jobs working in various coffee shops and grew a love for coffee making. So he was a perfect example of an entrepreneur that Meta recommended and wanted to vouch for. Meta became a trustee and staked their online reputation with us and with our lending community on behalf of people like Victor. So that's great. We found him. We found someone to fund. The question now is, how do we fund people like Victor? So what we did is basically created a profile of Victor and his business and his story together with Meta, and Victor himself contributed to this, posted it to the internet, and 67 people from all around the world, but a lot of whom were in San Francisco, contributed to put in, roughly maybe $75 a piece to fund a $5,000 loan for Victor to open his first cafe. He used it for remodeling expenses. And so the key here was the types of loan capital and the types of lenders we have are risk tolerant. They're okay with losing $75 because it's not their life savings. And matching that with this particular type of entrepreneurs that we have, people like Victor. So did it work? In this case, Victor's business grew. It worked tremendously well. He decided that he wanted to open a second location, so he asked for a second loan. We did exactly the same thing, but this time the loan was for $10,000. 129 lenders pitched in, about $75 a piece. And the key here, it got fully funded, and the key here was he built up trust with us and with our funders by proving himself. The first loan was $5,000, the second loan was $10,000. So this is a great success story for one person. This is all well and good for Victor. But remember our principal problem, which is, what about everyone else? We know there's multitudes of similar entrepreneurs like this that we don't know, and Meta doesn't know either. So how is this going to work? One day, Victor calls us up. He's like, I'm so thankful for you, for the lenders, for Meta, for believing in me. I want to believe in some people I know from my own community who I know are hardworking and trustworthy, and I want to be a trustee and vouch for them. So we did that. We let him do that. He turns blue. He recommended 5 people in his community, 2 of which were customers of his and visited his cafe multiple times a week. One of which was his hairdresser, and he knew her as a regular customer, and he visited her frequently. One of which was a fellow merchant that he sold together with at a flea market, and they would buy and sell and trade with each other and sell to common customers. And one of them, the one in the East Bay, was an old friend from Mexico that he's known for decades, who helped him, who emigrated to the US first and helped him get acclimated to the US once he started here. So talk about a trust in his character. He had gone way back, decades with this person, and could personally vouch for his character. So again, works out great for these 5 people, but we've still only touched 15 people. How does this spread? We've seen such hopeful evidence that this dynamic, where if somebody gives you a hand, you're going to want to give other people a hand, this has started to work. It's early days, but one of Victor's borrowers that he vouched for, Rocio, she also vouched for somebody, and we believe that all the evidence has shown that this is a very natural and human tendency, where as people get believed in, as they get back on their feet, they're going to use whatever time and resources they have to become trustees and vouch for the people that they personally know in their community that's off the map in terms of the banking system. So we are hopeful, it is early days, that this is something that is going to spread and help us reach the masses. And you might say, okay, there's lots of reasons this couldn't work, which I grant you. So how is this really going to work at scale? How are we going to make sure that this system remains trusted and that bad actors are weeded out? There's a variety of things that we have been doing and we continue to do. I think one key is triangulating between what we're calling hard data and soft data. Hard data are the types of things that banks look at, which we do. Checking credit whenever we can, looking for things like collateral. We've started to also access sources of data that are really indicative, that are kind of non-traditional. For instance, we've seen that when a business has a Yelp profile and or a Facebook profile, their repayment rates through our system go up 8 or 9%. You know, that is a factual thing that we have seen because their online reputation is out there and they've proven themselves to some degree. But what's new and different is the soft data, this character-based data that exists in tight-knit communities. You know, in the old days of banking, everyone lived in a small town. There were small-town banking branches, and the bankers went to the same schools and churches and workplaces as the people they were potentially making loans to. And they knew, is this guy going to work hard? Is this person going to be responsible and pay back? And that is kind of the soft information that people know that we're really not making use of in the traditional system. A second thing we're doing is making them earn our trust, right? We're starting them out small, just like in a lot of institutions. You start with a $5,000 credit limit. Victor proved himself, repaid on time. He got a $10,000 credit limit. This system not only works with the borrowers, but we're also doing it with the trustees. Because we're trusting the trustees as much as we are the borrowers that are taking the money. And so for trustees, we start them out like, hey, you can recommend a couple people. And if those people prove themselves out to repay, you pick the right people and supported them, then you can continue to expand your influence and recommend even more borrowers. Thirdly, and I think this is key in tight-knit communities, you know, say Victor's Mexican immigrant community of people that know each other personally. Everyone has skin in the game. Victor got no financial benefit from vouching for 5 people that he had come to know. Yet, he staked his online reputation. He had his Yelp profile out there. He has all the data about how much they've repaid. And he cares. And they know that he took a chance on them, so they care about not disappointing him. And the more they reach out and become trustees for their communities, they're all intertwined, and all of their success depends on each other. Notwithstanding the fact that they're all customers of each other in some way, or vendors of each other, or friends. There's many more other social bonds at stake here that make it clear that they win if their community wins, and they lose if their community loses. But everything I have on here, in some sense, is just a guardrail. These are safeguards that kind of keep things safe in a trust network. The real engine, the fuel that propels it forward, is the very natural desire for people to trust other people. And when someone has believed in you, once you have the means, you want to pay them back by believing in others, and so on and so forth. I mean, there's nothing in it for Victor except the satisfaction of knowing that he's helping people in his community get off the ground. And this is what we believe is unlimited. Every human has the potential to stick their neck out for those people that they trust, and that is an emotional drive that is an unlimited resource in a sense. So we believe that these are early beginnings of a new wave of building a new economy from the ground up, one person trusting another person at a time, empowering one entrepreneur at a time, and then basically recreating our new economy. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.